hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your host, Paladino Joey. Brave the Wild is available on thesportstuff.com, iTunes, Stitcher, and Double Twist. Great to be back on board once again today. I'm trying to keep it down a little bit. My wife has a sore throat, not feeling good right now in the bedroom, so we gotta try to keep it down a tiny bit here, so my apologies for that. Well, the Wild must have had a sore throat on New Year's Eve, I suppose. But the good news is Columbus' streak ended in about the same week here. So both winning streaks are over. Unfortunately, the Wild's win streak ends first, but luckily the Wild able to rebound in San Jose. So things kind of flip-flopped a bit. I figured the Wild would beat the Columbus Blue Jackets, believe it or not, end their streak, and then the Wild streak would end against the San Jose Sharks. Not the case. Columbus goes on to win their 16th in a row against Edmonton and then gets thwarted 5-0 by the Washington Capitals, who are a lot better than I thought, actually. Their record is way up there with Pittsburgh and Columbus. It's just that the fact that the division is so stacked, they're stuck in a wild card position with being only 3 points behind Pittsburgh. Go figure. Doesn't get weirder than that. So let's get to it. The Wild end up losing 4-2 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's their 15th victory in a row. The Wild streak, of course, ends at a dirty dozen. I didn't have a good feeling about this early on. Parise was so close to a goal, and then Bobrovsky somehow just swings over to his left and gets his hand in the way, prevents the shot, and then later on Parise had another chance and just didn't get enough wood on it. And I swear I read Granlund's lips, and he was like, "What was that?" when he was looking up at the the video. Ooh, yep. Teammates sometimes they have a little chatter with each other, not necessarily in a mean way, but kind of like, "What happened there? How did you not score?" Unfortunately. And then it seemed like right after that, things started to spiral in a very negative way. Jason Pominville and others kind of caught in a turnover. Cam Atkinson all alone. That did not look good, and it wasn't good. Dubnyk, you'd hope, could make the save, but easier said than done. One-on-one with a guy who's as red-hot as Cam Atkinson, a guy who most people didn't know who the hell he was just 2 years ago. 16th goal of the year. Oh, boy, that was depressing. The Wild would have their chances here and there, but it seemed like the Wild were sluggish, at times clumsy, just kind of getting outplayed, outworked, and just losing a lot of battles, a lot of puck battles along the wall and in center ice. Just they were not winning the battles time and time again. You could just kind of get the vibe they weren't going to win the game, and that's basically how things went. Brendan Saad with basically a Mikael Granlund level of pass over to Jack Johnson, the defenseman who's been there for quite a while in Columbus, one of the better defensemen out there. Only his second goal of the year, but Johnson, of course, has a lot of attributes besides goal scoring. Brandon Saad, though, Evil Otto, the former Chicago Blackhawk. I call him Evil Otto because of that mean smile he would always have. And I remember him and Clayton Stoner would have a bit of back and forth in the past, along with other Wild players. Always had that kind of that cocky smile on his face. Starting kind of skirmishes, drawing penalties, stuff like that. That's what Saad would do with the Blackhawks in the past. Evil Otto, of course, is the bad guy in the old arcade game Berserk. It's an Atari game, and it's basically a smiley face. So I call but he's a hard son of a biscuit. Evil Otto and Brandon Saad go together very well, especially when he was on the Blackhawks. But now Evil Otto is rearing his ugly face again against the Wild, as he had 2 assists in this game. Both of them very, very good passes. His second one was to Seth Jones later on. Cam Atkinson would have his 17th goal of the year in the second period after another turnover. This one was by Stahl, unfortunately. Hard to believe you'd see Stahl have one, but he did. Of course, it happens. There's always going to be turnovers, and this is an example of not winning the battle in a huge way. It was right after Jack Johnson's goal from Brandon Saad, actually. Mikael Granlund would have a power play goal. A very nice pass by Jared Spurgeon across the crease. Spectacular play. Loved that pass. It was a Mikael Granlund type of pass, just a tiny bit closer, and Granlund able to bury it. Second line, again, a factor, but Spurgeon helping out in that one. Koivu ending up getting the second assist on that. That second line is just, they do everything, man. And the second line, again, later on would help the Wild, but it wouldn't matter as the Wild ended up losing the game. Seth Jones, again, got from Brandon Saad, got his 7th goal of the year, making it 4-1. About 10 minutes after the Granlund goal. The Wild just couldn't bury anything on Bobrovsky for the longest time. Zucker right out of the third period. The Wild need to score, and they were able to. Zucker with a very nice play More him than anybody else, but Granlund and Spurgeon credited with the assist. You gotta like that. But a great play by Zucker. 9th goal of the year, and you got a whole third period to play with. But the Wild couldn't get anything past Bobrovsky. One big save after another. And the Wild just, they won some battles. They won more battles in that third period, but they could not, again, get the puck past Bobrovsky. It was extremely frustrating. Nice effort by the Wild in that third period. 16 shots on goal, but 0 going after that first one. 15 more shots. And the Wild couldn't bury anything on old Sergei, the guy who was not so good last year in the New Year's Eve game when the Wild actually won a rare New Year's Eve game last year. Yet funny, the January swoon instead of the December swoon ended up costing Yo his job in mid-February. Ultimately there. The Wild will have a rematch with this club in Columbus. Good luck with that. But hopefully we're playing better than them at the time on March the 2nd. So, yeah, just a day after Chelsea, the Cats... What year would she be? 26 years old already. Obviously long gone. Many, many years ago now. Dubnyk not very sharp, but the Wild didn't help him at all. The defense, the turnovers, not winning battles, as I say time and time again. Giving Atkinson a one-on-one with Dubnyk is not going to help the guy's cause. Doobie, though, 4 goals allowed. And, of course, it's a combination of Dubnyk not being quite as sharp the past 2 games, like the Islander game, and, of course, the Columbus game, not very sharp. The game even before that, just struggling, and also, again, the sloppy play of the team on the center ice. You see a lot of turnovers around center ice by the Wild. You saw some really careless passes against San Jose time and time again. We'll get into that in a bit. That game was quite fun to watch, but still dangerous stuff, and it drew a little more lip reading from me, this time from Bruce Boudreau. It was basically something I would have said, too. I mean, really, man? It was some stupid-ass passes. Oh, boy. But the Wild end up winning the game, so, hell, you end what could have started a losing streak, despite the fact you're giving up 4 goals time and time again lately. But the Wild's offense stepping up in a huge way, making great plays. The top line and the second line, really spectacular. The second line consistently always there, but the top line this time, Parise, Stahl, stepping up. Nino Niederreiter, Jordan Schrader, and Nino Niederreiter saw time on the top line. Coyle, obviously, with the power play with that top line and such. But my goodness, great overall play in this game by Coyle. By Koivu, Stahl, and Parise. They deservedly got all 3 of the stars in the game, and they really stepped up in this one. The first period was kind of a classic grind it out. Dubnyk was sharp, but so was Jones on the other end. Of course, the Wild not getting a whole lot of shots on goal for the longest time. The Sharks were the aggressors in this game, but luckily the Wild hanging in there. Pominville moved all the way down to the 4th line, and I think deservedly so. His days are very numbered right now. It's unfortunate that he's still stuck here for at least with his huge contract. A buyout still would be quite a hit on the cap, and of course quite a hit on the pocketbook of Craig Leopold. So it's going to be interesting to see how things turn here. Dubnyk was pretty much peppered time and time again due to bad, sloppy play at center ice, turnovers. I just said that already, but it kept happening. It's been a trend. And Dubnyk, again, not the sharpest thing you ever saw in this game. There were multiple goals in this one that you thought, well, he would have stopped that earlier in the year. The first period, luckily, it was more just grinded out. Nothing spectacular. Kind of sloppy. Not the best, not the prettiest game you ever saw. And then midway through the second period, the Sharks scored 2 times in a 2-minute area there. The first goal allowed was not Dubnyk's fault. It was a stupid turnover, stupid play. Don't know what the hell was going on there. First 5th goal of the year for Dunsky. And then Joe Pavlevsky, Dubnyk should have had that one. That was frustrating. I thought Dubnyk could have had that one right through his legs. Really, But then again, it happens. But also weak defense by the Wild along the way. Eric Stahl netting his first goal of the game anyway on the power play. Several minutes later, late in the second period, getting the Wild on the scoreboard. Thank God. You hope this will create some type of momentum, and it ultimately did. It got things going. Now we got something past Adam Jones. It took 2/3 of the game, but we got it. Parise made a really good play. He just hung on to that puck, made a diving pass basically as he was about to lose the puck, getting it to Eric Stahl with a nice wrister, kind of like a one-time shot. Very powerful past Jones for his 12th goal of the season. And then Parisi, old school Zach Parisi in that third period, not afraid to get his face cut, basically. And he didn't in this play, but he could have. Basically, going down, he was able to finish, getting really up close to Adam Jones, up close and personal, 7th goal of the season. And a pretty nice play by Nino Niederreiter, I have to admit. Another nice cross crease pass, you could say. 15th assist of the year for Niederreiter on that one. Oh, boy. The Joel Ward goal, another bad turnover, another bad, just poor defense. The Wild not paying attention on this one. Caught sleeping. 3rd goal of the year. Don't know about that one. And then Patrick Marleau right through Dubnyk. So very similar to the last 2 goals. And all this taking place in about a 2-minute period. Parisi, Ward, Marleau. Now the Sharks are up 4-2. You figure the game's over, right? The hell with this crap. Only about 50 seconds later, Eric Stahl from Parisi. 2nd goal of the game. As they both basically were attacking the net on this one, and Stahl able to finish 13th goal of the season. And then the second line got jealous because Parisi and Stahl had been stealing the show on that top line. They've been just spectacular the whole game. Jordan Schrader, too bad he didn't net any points in this one. He was on the top line early, and then he kind of got moved around. And I don't know, unfortunate for him, his minutes were limited as the game progressed. He kind of got moved down to the lower lines after that. I guess Budo didn't like what he saw, so he reconnected the top line of Nino Niederreiter, not Charlie Coyle, with Stahl and Parisi, and it looked very strong the whole game. 3 goals, for those guys. And again, like I said, the second line got jealous. All 3 of them factoring on the goal. Back-to-back one-timers here. Actually, not really. The first one was more of an actual pretty nice move by Mikko Koivu after a good pass from Granlund. A very good pass, as it usually is. He just that beautiful sliding pass that Koivu had to make a pretty nice move. This was a pretty cool goal. Koivu, when he makes a move, it's often a very good one, and he buried it, and it's beautiful to watch. I mean, when Koivu's playing well, he is just a fantastic player when he actually is playing well, and he's been consistent the last 2 years, I'd have to say. It was before that you saw a lot of inconsistencies out of Mikko Koivu, but the last 2 years, this guy has been a different man. He really has. He's been healthier. He's been stronger. And, of course, he looks bigger the last 2 years, too. It's like he really put on strength. And you're seeing more durability, stronger play, just better. And he's playing a better role, too, a second-line center. And it doesn't diminish anything. It doesn't diminish his value at all, being on the second line. Nor does it for Granlund and Zucker racking up the points, both getting assists on both goals by Koivu. That was awesome. Stahl had scored to make it 4-3, making things interesting. 3 minutes later, the Koivu goal ties it up. And then the second line right back out there again 2 minutes later, and there it was, the one-timer from Koivu off of a beautiful, perfect pass from Granlund. I mean, I don't even know how this guy does it. I mean, he just places it in the exact spot. Spectacular pass by Granlund. And Koivu netting the one-timer. It's 5-4, 10 minutes remaining. And the ability of this team to stick with it after giving up 2 quick goals by the Sharks to make it 4-2. Just how disappointing was that after Parisi had tied it up just a minute earlier, for the Wild to able to stick with this, come back and take a 5-4 lead. You're just sitting, hoping and praying. Okay, Dubnyk, be sharp. Okay, Wild, stop with the turnovers. Just make smart plays, but run that clock out. Maybe even net an empty netter, which you did not see Granlund on the ice during the empty net cycle this time around, which is kind of surprising. The empty net period, we could say, about a minute and 10 seconds or so. You'd think you'd see Granlund out there because he always tends to get to that puck and finish. But he wasn't out there this time around. The Wild, luckily, are able to hang on. But there were some very, very poor passes by Brodin and others out there. Stupid passes. Centering passes, or just kind of like cross-ice type of passes from defensemen in your own zone, creating turnovers that could have cost us the game. I don't know what they're doing. And it was about 2 or 3 of them in about a minute period there, not long after Koivu's second goal. And I read Bruce Boudreau's lips. He basically said, you need to watch those passes. So, pardon my French there. I better clean that up. But you could read his lips. Not good. Oh, boy. So that's what it was, but luckily the Dubnyk was able to hang on, and the Wild's defense stepped up in a huge way, making nice blocks, taking the puck away from the Shark forwards after just some very aggressive forechecking the whole game. The Sharks unable to complete on their forecheck, though, in that third period. Thank God, and the Wild ended up winning the game 5-4. Oh boy, what a relief. And thank God the team really was able to stick with this one, because last year, there's no way under Mike Yo this team would have won that game in a 4-2. Very unlikely. We almost made a nice comeback against Dallas last year with John Torchetti, but unfortunately that fell short by one goal. It was a heartbreaker. And the Wild season ended. This team is different. You're hearing from multiple people in this town that are considered hockey wonks, people in the know of hockey, that the Wild are the best team in the Western Conference right now. And I tend to agree. I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, they actually are playing better than the Blackhawks, and they have multiple games in hand as well. So, I mean, it's spectacular. We always used to hear that, remember, when the Wild were kind of fighting to get in the playoffs the last couple of years. They had games in hand, this and that. Like before the Dubnyk came to the Wild, Kemper was struggling. There's still a chance we'll be fine. Where this year, it's like there's still a chance we might be the top seed in the Western Conference. We might have home ice advantage all the way up to the Stanley Cup final, where odds are we would be on the road in that if Columbus or Pittsburgh is there. Maybe even Washington, which I truly doubt. But yeah, it's pretty exciting times here in Minnesota in the hockey world. Hopefully Gopher Hockey can catch up. But we also have some extremely positive news regarding Junior Hockey Championship. We'll talk about that in the second segment when we talk about the prospects, because we're talking prospects, ladies and gentlemen, for the Minnesota Wild. Multiple prospects looking like studs in that Junior Hockey Championships for 2016-17. Just sweet stuff. Sweet indeed. So let's pass out the awards here. Mike Modano Award for this show, it's going to go to Parisi, because he was a factor. He was just waiting to explode. He's had multiple James Shepard memorials this year, which is sad, but now he's starting to emerge and look like the Zach Parisi we knew before. Because remember, he wouldn't always score a goal, but he was always active, and he was always active against Columbus. He was always active against the San Jose Sharks, and he had a 3-point game, just an explosion. Just gutting it out. The old Zach Parisi. That back must be getting better, because before you didn't see any of that. It was like he wasn't the same guy, and he's starting to be Zach again. And that is really good news for this potential division championship team for the Minnesota Wild. James Shepard Memorial, it's got to be Pominville. I mean, the guy can't even hang on to the puck anymore, much less he can't score for crap. He hasn't scored in 15 games. He can't even get assists. He can't even hang on to the puck. It's like, yeah, there's a reason he's on that fourth line. God bless him. He's a great guy. He was a great player. Great player. He really was for so long with Buffalo, and his first 3 years or so with the Wild, particularly his first 2 years, I'd have to say. His second year, he had 30 goals. His third year, you could see a decline coming, only 18 goals. Still not that bad, but it was a decline. And last year, yuck. This year, yuck again. He showed potential off and on earlier in the year, but now not so much. James Shepard Memorial, very deserving to Jason Pominville for this episode. Well, with that, we'll take a break. We'll preview some games, and we're gonna get into junior hockey and talk about the prospects, not only there but in Iowa as well. We are back here on Brave the Wild, segment number 2. This will be fun. I got 3 games to preview. Not the easiest games in the world, but winnable, I would have to say, hopefully. We pay a visit to L.A., we go to Anaheim, so it's a Hollywood weekend here, Saturday, Sunday. So woohoo, but there's no vacation for the Wild. They are working overtime Saturday, Sunday. Well, kind of, you get the idea. They've got all the other days off. And then they host the Montreal Canadiens on Thursday, January the 12th. And then, of course, we'll talk about the prospects and junior, all that fun stuff right after this. So here we go. Los Angeles Kings, the LA Kings, the former home of Gretzky and all that good stuff. The 2-time Stanley Cup champion Los Angeles Kings, 2012. The miracle team that made you believe if you get that 8th seed, you could do anything. The Kings did that. And then 2014, a little bit better record, but they just ran and they just did it again. You could kind of feel it coming, and they beat those Blackhawks in the West Finals. Is that going to happen this year? No. They kind of had a little bit of a New York Giants feel to them the last 2 times they went to the Cup Finals. With a nice underdog and strong team. You just could feel it. Not easily done when Jonathan Quick is out. And he's been out since the first game of the season. He didn't even play particularly well in that game, giving up 3 goals. Crazy to imagine in that case. But Peter Budaj has not been that bad, though, the Czechoslovakian goalie. 17-10, not bad. Goals against average 2. Not bad at all, actually. Save percentage 92%. So he's definitely not the problem. 4 shutouts on the season for Peter Budaj. Not bad at all. It's on the other side of the puck, folks. Jeff Carter, the former Philadelphia Flyer first-round pick years ago, has been leading the way in a huge way. 21 goals, 12 assists, 33 points in the 39 games he has played this season. Very strong, very steady. He's definitely been the leader of this club. I mean, there's a massive drop-up after that, and we're talking some names here. Alec Martinez, the guy who scored the Stanley Cup championship goal in 2014, he certainly wasn't one of the stars of that team or anything. He was like a third, fourth line guy, bottom six guy. And he's still kind of like that. He could play second to third line-ish, and he's the second leading scorer. That tells you the Kings are in trouble. Anze Kopitar, a guy who had 74 points last year, down to only 17 on the season and 34 games. That's not going to get it done for the Kings, and that's why they're not playing well. Guys like Anze Kopitar struggling the way he is. I mean, that's a big deal, man. So it is what it is. Let's take advantage of it, eh? Let's take advantage of it. I mean, why the hell not? The Wild need to do that today, and I think the Wild can do that. Darcy Kemper will be in net today like he always is against the Los Angeles Kings. He always is. Last time around wasn't the prettiest game, but the Wild scored 6 goals against these guys. Awesome. They hosted the Kings on October the 18th. That seems like 20 years ago. The Wild's defense was up and down, kind of like it is now, I suppose. Dustin Brown, kind of the same goon he always has been. Let's try to stay away from his elbow if we can. Devin Setaguchi's back in the NHL, and he's a member of the Kings. That figures. A team desperate, looking for some type of scoring. They're not going to really get it, I don't think, from him, and they're not really getting it. He's just fourth-line talent at this stage, only 9 points in 33 games. Stewart would be better for the Kings at this point. That being Chris Stewart, our Chris Stewart. He's been strong for the Wild this year. Holla and Pominville were very good in that game against the Kings, and of course, as was Darcy Kemper, who always plays well against that club. But the Kings, I think, very beatable today, even though it's a road game and all that. It's a 3 o'clock game, too, kind of early. I predict the Wild beat the Kings today. I'm sure some goals will be scored, but I have a sneaky feeling it's going to be better. Kemper's going to be better this time around, giving up 3 goals. And it was cool to see Pominville play as well as he did last time around. Could it be a prediction? A guy who just got in trouble from me, just got a James Tepper memorial. Will Pominville score against the Kings today, or Holla, who hasn't been scoring either? In fact, I mean, he got his little pinball goal last week. I forget who it was against. I think it was Montreal. No, it wasn't Montreal. I can't remember who it was against now. It was a pretty funny play though. Darcy Kemper will be in net. He will give up only 2 goals in today's game. I think the Wild are going to win this one. I'm going to go with 4-2. I like the way the offense has been playing, and Jason Pominville will score today. How about that? He will end his scoreless streak today against the Los Angeles Kings. 4-2 victory for the Wild. I might even go with 3-2, but a regulation win for the Wild over the Los Angeles Kings. Heck, and even if it goes to the shootout, sure, okay, we'll say 3-2, possible shootout in this one. Wild win 3-2. I don't think we're going to score 4 goals against these guys, but it's possible, but I'll go with 3. Let's be a little bit safer. Wild win against the LA Kings. And now the Wild head to Anaheim, California. Oh, goody. That's going to be fun. Wild's history there, not the best, and we've known that forever, but it'll be the first ever time the Wild play, the Bruce Boudreau will return to Anaheim since being fired from the Anaheim Ducks. The same suspects, of course, Corey Perry, all those stars over there in Anaheim. The Wild's history so far this year, nothing. This is the first of 3 matchups between the Wild and Anaheim. We'll be playing them again on January the 21st. And February 14th, we'll be hosting in both games. So that's nice. The Wild's chances of winning the series, okay, maybe slightly improved because of the home ice advantage. But the Ducks are back in first place again. They're on a run. They have 50 points on the season, believe it or not. The Wild have 52. So what does that tell you? Just do the math there. The Ducks have caught all the way up. They are playing some great hockey. They were struggling for the longest time, but they might end up winning the division anyway, despite the fact Bruce Boudreau isn't there. Mr. Division champion himself. Ryan Kessler leading the way with 34 points. Corey Perry with 30. Ryan Ketzloff at 30. All this deep talent. They're more of a defensive team than anything, but those top players are definitely top players for the Anaheim Ducks. Cogliano, one of the more dangerous guys also for that club. 9 goals, 10 assists along the way. That guy's always given the Wild trouble in the past. There is no doubt about it. He's not a star, but he's a valuable third-line type of talent. And I'm sure he will be a threat for the Wild in this one. Oh, boy. But I hope the Wild can win this game. I'm guessing Dubnyk will be back in net. Because, yeah, you don't want to go back-to-back with Kemper. I don't think that's a good idea. Kemper will get will get a win this Saturday, though. He'll get the win, I believe. Dubnyk against Anaheim, I'm hoping for the best in that one. Not because I think the Wild are not up to the task. Maybe we are going to start a new win streak and get to 3, but it's a tough opponent. They've been playing well. I'm going to go with a victory for Anaheim at this point. I think the Wild will give up 3 goals instead of 4, so that's good. We'll have an improvement with Dubnyk there. Poor guy who's definitely been losing some of that magic the past the past week or so. 3-2 victory for Anaheim in regulation. Unfortunately, maybe a shootout, but I'll go with regulation at this point for Anaheim. That would not be good. I'm hoping the Wild can win that game, but I can't pick it right now. Anaheim's always been a problem for the Wild. I'm really debating on picking a win though, with Boudreau going home into Anaheim, get a little revenge. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to change my mind. The Wild will beat the Anaheim Ducks 3-2. 3-2 in regulation. They are going to not give the Ducks anything. They're going to maintain their position ahead of Anaheim in the seeding and all that, and try to keep up with those damn Blackhawks who won't lose ever. They won't lose ever. They're always on NBC Sports Network as well, all the time. Every single time there's hockey, it's Blackhawks versus Sharks, Blackhawks versus Blues, Blackhawks versus Carolina, Blackhawks versus Calgary, Blackhawks versus everybody. That's all it ever is. It's kind of ridiculous. Why can't the Wild get on there? Maybe move things around. Did they have such a low opinion on the Minnesota Wild coming into this season? And I know the Wild disappointed them in the past. Last year they were disappointing. The year before they were for a while until later in the season. But geez, I'll pick a win though. And this one is on NBC Sports, so I better stop complaining. So there it is. This one is on NBC Sports. So there you go. I'm complaining for nothing. There you go. But it's a Sunday game. What about those weekday games too? Damn it, those are fun to have on NBC Sports. Okay, well, you get that beautiful NBC HD. Looks a little better than FSN, doesn't it? It's really crystal clear. The Wild will win the game, though, on national television. I have a feeling that Boudreau is going to have this team ready to beat that club. Boudreau has no hard feelings for Anaheim, but you know what? He's a competitive SOB, and this team is going to be ready for him that night. The Wild will represent and will beat the Anaheim Ducks. It's I kept debating on that, but I changed my mind. I have a right to do that. I had the Ducks winning. I'll have the Wild win 3-2. Most likely guy to score in this one, well, let's go with Eric Stahl. Eric Stahl will be big in this one. I could even go with Koivu, but shoot. I'm going to go with Koivu against Anaheim. He's the most likely guy to score. That second line is going to set up Koivu one way or another. Will he make a big move, or will he get set up with another beautiful one-timer from Granlund? Whatever it is, he will be the most likely guy to score in the game. John Gibson leading the way. Jonathan Bernier, also the former Toronto Maple Leaf, as well, who used to be Jonathan Quick's backup. But yeah, Gibson, the Wild can score on this guy. Not the best goals against average, 2.48, 2 shutouts on the year. Hopefully he won't get his third. I think the Wild will be up for that, though. I think they're going to be scoring on this club. 3-2 victory. Minnesota over the Anaheim just the Anaheim Ducks. They don't like to be called Mighty Ducks anymore because maybe they're not so mighty after all. Thursday, January the 12th. Will Darcy Kemper be in that? Because if maybe you want to give Dubnyk a rest, or is it necessary? You got several days off. Dubnyk will probably be in net in this one. Against Carey Price, you're going to get the 2 best goalies again. You're going to see shutout hockey in the first period, like there always is, when it's Dubnyk versus another elite goalie. It's always like that. Hopefully Montoya's in net, but I doubt it. He had a nice thriller. The Wild managed to score 4 goals on Carey Price December the 22nd. I got a sneaky feeling that's not going to be the case on January the 12th, Thursday. I got a feeling. You got a lot of injuries with Montreal, including the likes of Paul Byron or, say, Brendan Gallagher. Those guys been seeing data. They've been day to day. Actually, injured reserve for Gallagher. Fractured right hand. Byron with an upper body injury day to day. But so many others. Injured reserve. Markov, Andrew Shaw, and others along the way. Shaw, one of those valuable third line type of guys over the former Blackhawk. with the concussion issue. So you know how those can really drag things out for a long time. Unfortunately for him, just kind of is what it is. I kind of see this as one of those trap games. I kind of think if the Wild beat Anaheim, they probably won't come back and beat Montreal. I mean, I can't pick the Wild to go on a 12-game win streak again or a 6-game win streak. I mean, maybe a 6-game win streak is possible, but I'm not going to pick it at this stage. The Wild, I think you're going to see a really close, tight game. I think Dubnyk will really step up against his fellow superstar goalie, Carey Price. You'll see something of the likes of 2-1, 3-2, 2-2 going into a shootout, overtime, something like that. But I think Montreal is going to pull this out. I'm going to go 2-1. I think Carey Price has a huge game against the Wild after giving up 4 goals last time around. I think he'll be ready this time. 2-1 victory for Montreal. Most likely guy to score for the Wild in this one will be Zach Parise. I think Zach Parise will score against the Montreal Canadiens in the game, and he'll be the only Wild to do so. Last time around was so much fun, December the 22nd. It was kind of a little early Christmas present for all of us Wild fans. 4-2 victory in Montreal, but I got a sneaky feeling the Wild aren't going to sweep that club this season. That's just my opinion as we go into things. So now let's look at the prospects briefly here as we look to wrap up the show, and not too long. I think the Wild will go 2-1 this week. We'll check up on the Dmitry Sokolov watch. 37 points in 34 games. The guy's just tearing it up for the Sudbury Wolves. 26 goals, 11 assists so far on the season for Dmitry Sokolov. Gotta love how things went. And then you go into the Junior Hockey Championships hosted in Montreal and Toronto over in Canada. So, of course, Canadians having a home ice advantage in this one in a sense. The USA Juniors won it in the shootout. It's too bad it went to a shootout instead of into overtime. I agree with Wes Walz. If you listen to if you watch the Sharks game, Wes Walz talked about it's a crying shame that a game like that would have to end in a shootout rather than, like, say, an overtime goal like a Stanley Cup final would. You got all kinds of amazing prospects in this tournament. Kirill Kaprizov, who Brandon Molesky of KFAN believes is a superstar in the making, believe it or not. 5th-round pick for the Wild, leading everybody in scoring in this one. Just a spectacular overall tournament for him. He had 9 goals and 3 assists, 12 points in the tournament. The overall leading scorer for the Russians. They ended up winning the bronze along the way. You got Jordan Greenway, one of the leaders for the United States. 7 goals. 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points in the tournament. Absolutely good. You got Dahlin as well. Jonathan Dahlin for Sweden. He's the son of Ulf Dahlin, the former North Star. A lot of people look at him as an up and coming superstar in the making. Kiefer Bellows, the son of Brian Bellows, the former North Star. Unfortunately, he's not coming to the Wild or anything, but hey, had a nice tournament, was very valuable in that gold medal game. Yul Eriksson, 9 points in the tournament, 6 goals, 3 assists, leading the way for the Swedes. Along with Alexander Nylander, who actually had 12 points. Pardon me, he actually did a little better. Kunin as well, though, adding some very valuable goals for the Wild prospects. So, very, very exciting future for the Minnesota Wild with these prospects. Great tournament, lots of fun. I'm really happy the USA was able to pull it out in the gold medal game. Too bad, again, it had to resort in a shootout, but very exciting times for the Wild. And again, I'll say this once again, this is why Chuck Fletcher still has a job, because look at these prospects. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov, 5th-round pick. He has the makings of a star in the NHL one day. Hopefully the Wild can get him to Iowa as soon as next year. Maybe we have to wait 2 years. Hopefully not too long. But Greenway, I could see him in an Iowa Wild jersey next year along with Kunin. A lot of people do believe he will be. Alex Tuck already is there. As most of you would probably know by now, we'll check in on him and others right now in Iowa. Timo Pulkkinen leading the way, 22 points on the season. Iowa kind of had a rough week in the net, but luckily for Alex Stalock, it didn't bring his goals against average over 3 yet, but it certainly has climbed up quite a bit, about 0.3 goals against this week. Unfortunately for him, Mario Lucia had a 3-point game last week, nothing going this week. Olofsson added his 4th goal of the year, so now he's at 14 total points. Alex Tuck is at 17, and of course Jordan Schrader is on the Minnesota Wild. Eric Riley also adding his 3rd goal of the season. Nice to see that. And his 10th assist. So 13 points on the year for Mike Riley. Those are the notables down in Iowa. The guys that could potentially be with the Minnesota Wild at some point, maybe even this year, if all goes well. Of course, Alex Stalock. You never know. If one of the goalies gets hurt, you never know. Alex Stalock is probably going to be the next man up for the Minnesota Wild. He'd be the immediate backup to whoever is the starter, be it Devin Dubnyk or Kemper. So there it is. Exciting times for the prospects for the Minnesota Wild. Boy, what a fun tournament it was. Didn't get to see all of it. Didn't get to see most of it, unfortunately. But I saw when I needed to in and out. And Kirill Kaprizov, I don't disagree that he has the makings of a star in this league, as does Joel Eriksson Ek, as far as I'm concerned. Third overall in goals scored in the tournament. And we saw what he could do at the NHL level. He's not a spectacular player, but he's a very good, solid player. He's probably going to be a better version of Mikko Koivu, as far as I'm concerned. He led the entire tournament in plus-minus, +8 for Joel Eriksson Ek. Extremely exciting. And it's also nice to see these former North Stars sons also go out there and play so well. Jonathan Dahlin, of course, again, like I mentioned, son of Ulf Dahlin, and of course, Kuiper Bellows, the Edina native now, son of Brian Bellows, the former North Star the former North Star guy who would light the lamps up. He had a 50-goal season years ago in the early 80s. Spectacular first-round pick for the Wild many years ago by Lou Nanne. Gotta love what we see here. So Benny Allen out there in Australia, a big fan of the Minnesota Wild. Very cool to know that there's fans of hockey in Australia. Very encouraging indeed. Hope all of you enjoyed this show. Hope you enjoy the juniors, and the future of this club looks extremely bright with all these great prospects. Hoping for the best with that. Please do join the Facebook page. It is facebook.com/Brave the Wild, facebook.com/Brave the Wild. And then there's @Brave the Wild for the Twitter account. Please give that a follow. And you could call into the phone lines, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. It's a voicemail. Do treat it as such. Mention you're calling in for Brave the Wild. And do your statement, shout-out, comment, question, whatever it is, keep it maybe 1 to 3 minutes. Yeah, you could go a full 3 minutes if you want to. It's very welcome on the show. There's the call now button if you're international. It goes right into the phone line through Facebook. It doesn't cost you a penny. And then, of course, there's also the audio submission route. You just use your smartphone, smart device, use the free audio recording app, treat it as a phone call, and email it to paladinolive@yahoo.com. paladinolive@yahoo.com. All this information is in the show description on iTunes, Stitcher, and Double Twist. So there it is. And if you could give a nice positive rating for Brave the Wild on iTunes or Stitcher, it would be greatly appreciated, and I will give you a shout-out on the show. Thank you again very much for your inclusion. Maybe I'll check real quick if there's anything going on the Facebook page. Some weeks there's a lot. Some weeks there's not a whole lot. Some weeks people are just busy and don't get around to it, unfortunately. Thought I had it loaded, and I didn't. Isn't that great? Doesn't look... I was talking about Jordan Greenway. Yep, goal to assist. This was last Saturday. And Benny Allen was saying, oh, yep, did you do a Wild Prospects Junior World Cup talk in the new podcast? Looking forward to listening. And yes, I did indeed, and I hope you liked the conversation today as well. Jordan Greenway, really strong, and he did help the Wild beat Canada earlier last week as well. That was cool. Jordan Greenway, again, what a future. And what's the word you always hear about Jordan Greenway when it comes to him as a player? Every word, every time you hear he's a beast. He's a beast. That's what you hear. He's such a big player and a lot of skill. Maybe he'll be a Todd Bertuzzi type without the injuring people on purpose side of things. But because Bertuzzi was a hell of a player when he actually was, playing hockey and not being a goon. He was awesome. Physicality, but also lots of skill added to that. Hopefully Jordan Greenway can bring that to the Wild. I am just very excited about the future of this club. It's no wonder Bruce Boudreau came here because I think he knew what was coming, and he also knew that this team can play this game with the right coach, with the right attitude, and without feeling sorry for themselves. He's very big on that as well. And they did not feel sorry for themselves against the San Jose Sharks. They got the job done. There it is. That's how you prevent a losing streak after such a wonderful winning streak. So we'll wrap things up. We'll be back next week, hopefully a 2-1 week at least, maybe 3-0. Wouldn't that be something? We'll talk about it then. Everyone, take care.